All right, we gotta let it breathe while we get the Facebook groups in here. There's a one, there's a two. We'll let it change. Gotta make sure they get connected. All right, there's one, there's two. Welcome into another episode of Death Valley Deep Divers. I am your host, Erick Trickel, and joining me on this fine Friday night is the one, Lance Sanderson. Lance, it's been a week. How you been?
Doing good, man. It's slowed down a lot at work. Been kind of, I don't want to say cutting some corners, but doing things a little bit differently. So I've got a lot more time on my hands and I'm not nearly as exhausted, but doing good. Getting really into the thick of the NFL draft. Obviously, we got a great show planned for you guys. Talking about just some debates. Would you rather? This is one of our bigger shows that we always do. So doing good. Got a lot more into some players that you had kind of suggested for this operation. I got 5 or 6 knocked out when we were pre-draft or pre-show. So yeah, man, I'm excited to talk to you and just enjoy a wonderful Friday evening. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. One of my favorite things shows that we do every year is just this. It's the would you rather. Would you rather prospect A at this pick or would you rather prospect B at this pick? It's always one of those fun conversations because it allows you to, and especially this year, I focused on getting like players to compare them. So you're able to isolate it and just compare two players that are very similar in their play style, not identical, but enough similarities,
Mm-hmm.
and just go and make that straight comparison one versus the other. But I'm excited to get into it. We have like I think 11 would you rather's, and if anybody in the chat, if you're listening, you have your own, feel free to hit them in. A lot of the players that I picked out are guys that, if I, as far as I can recall, we haven't talked about a whole lot. I know Nick and I have talked about some of them, and there is a player or two that we have had a lot of conversations about, but for the most part, anyways, it's new guys. Before we get into it, I'm gonna say hello to some people in the chat. And Blex coming in saying, I'm here to party as always. Glad you're here. Glad you can join us with being one of the many YouTube members that we have. David Papa Bear McGilrath coming in saying, good evening, Broncos country. Let's go, Bo, with the $2 super chat. We appreciate the super chat, Papa Bear, and we appreciate you being a member as well. Todd Ossendorf saying, hello, Broncos country, and DVDD, go Broncos. And Todd, I got to say, you have a profile picture that is very similar to my brother's Facebook profile picture. And I always have to take a double look whenever I see it pop in the first time around. Ernie May saying, go Broncos country only. Chase Wolner coming in. Hey, fellas, I've been dealing with food poisoning the past couple days. I'm so happy for the distraction. Food poisoning stinks. Hope you get to feeling better soon. Drink plenty of fluids. Chase, I'm glad we can provide you with some distraction as well. I've dealt with food poisoning a few times, and it's awful.
It's terrible. It's literally the worst. I had food poisoning about a month and a half ago, and it was. I'll spare you all the gory details. It was pretty rough. So hopefully you're not leaking everywhere. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, and then we have let's see here. There was another one. Uh Todd Osdorf's Would You Rather Jonah Coleman or Stowers? That's an interesting one. It's two different positions, so that's definitely a fun conversation that we can have when we're going into that. Pearl Heater also saying telling Chase to feel better. Mike Thompson's coming in saying I look different from this morning. No sweatshirt, no hat, showered and not working on. One is still not being affected by the sleeping medication that I took last night.
Mm.
To where I was still a little bit out of it this morning. Freshly showered and actually awake for once. I don't remember this morning show at all. I felt like I slept through it. And then we also have Paul coming in saying hello, my dudes, and David Youngkin saying the UFL is back. But before we get into ours, I want to grab Todd's here. Would you rather Jonah Coleman or Eli Stowers? Now, since Todd didn't throw the picks in there, we'll say pick 108 for Jonah Coleman. Might be a little bit later than he actually goes, but I think that 62 is way too much of a reach for him. Or 62 for Eli Stowers, and he may not even be there, but that's the first pick Denver has. Which one would you rather for Denver?
Can we get both? Like that would be great. Get Stowers at 62 and Coleman at 108. Like that would be that's a hell of a way to start the draft with considering the way that the Broncos went through free agency. But if you're telling me Jonah Coleman at 62, I'm not quite so sure about that. At 94, when the Broncos had that third round pick before they traded it to the Miami Dolphins for Jalen Waddle, that would have been preferable there. And Stowers at 62 is probably a guy that I think this Broncos offense could really use to insert as that big slot. we need to start having the conversation, Eric, and like trying to tell everybody that Eli Stowers, guys like Michael Trigg, Tanner Koziel, we're going to get into a bunch of these guys here in just a little bit. They're not actually tight ends. They're more receiving options, big slot guys that you want to put out.
The receivers.
Yeah, they're not guys you're going to line up on the line of scrimmage as a true wide tight end and throw them around as blockers. Like Michael Trigg does some really cool things as an insert blocker. Stowers has the ability to line up with his hand in the dirt, but he's not the best blocker out there. I mean, Koziel, same thing. Like we need to start talking about these players and what they actually are and not where they're listed at. And to me, that's a big part of this conversation tonight. So with me, if you're talking at 62, give me Stowers. I would rather have Jonah Coleman at 94, 108, I believe is the Broncos pick in the fourth round. 108 would be great there for those guys. But if you're saying specifically 62, Stowers over Coleman every day.
No, 62 for Eli Stowers, 108 for Jonah Coleman.
Would you give me Jonah Coleman?
Yeah.
Quite honestly, I would go Jonah Coleman here.
Yeah, I would too. And I like Stowers. I shouldn't say that. I'm not a big fan of Stowers. He's not my guy. I understand why other people like him. The receiving, the athleticism, the receiving ability, the smoothness that he brings, all great and dandy. But even as a big slot, if you're not giving me any effort as a blocker, I'm all the way out on you. And there is no effort, no fire, no desire with him as a blocker. And that gives me the ick in a big way when it comes to football players. Receivers, tight ends, running backs, you got to show that desire. Because one of the things that I remember, listening to multiple coaches and general managers talk about this is you can improve the blocking of a player if they're willing, and that starts with that willingness to block. And if they're don't have that willingness to block, you're going to struggle to improve them because they're just not going to put in it. So, or not want to put in that work. So I'm with you. I would take Jonah Coleman. I think 108, good value for him. I think he probably cracks the top 100, probably sitting late 90s. I'd be surprised if he goes earlier, but hey, this is a weak running back class, and teams may, jump at that talent that is there, and he's definitely one. Very powerful downhill blocker, really good out of the backfield as a receiver as well. Capable blocker in the backfield. Just doesn't bring that explosibility. So for Denver, I think he's actually a great fit for what they need, even more so than somebody like Stowers. If you're going to give me a big slot who doesn't have any effort as a blocker, give me one a little bit later. And we actually have other would you rathers that involve both these players. So we'll be able to get into that here in just a little bit. But Peter Middleton saying he came in over on YouTube instead of Facebook today. Glad to see it from Singapore. William Catalano is also coming in here saying hello to everybody and saying in my latest mocks, Jadarian Price has been falling to us at 62. I doubt that happens, but man, that would be nice. For you, he's a returner, able RJ Harvey. He's a 2-down run guy. I don't see it there as a receiver and definitely not as a blocker to be a 3-down guy. Crosses paths too much with RJ Harvey with what they do as a runner. Very similar pros and cons as runners as well. The ball security with Jadarian Price is extremely concerning. He fumbled once every under 38 touches this last season, which is hidden by the fact that he only averaged 8.7 offensive touches at Notre Dame. There's never been a running back drafted, or there's only been 2 running backs drafted since 2010 in the top 100 that had under 10 touches, average under 10 touches per game. Neither one of them worked out. Obviously, Price can be different, and his special teams there provides him another avenue for success. But it's just, he's such an outlier for me that I have a hard time with him. And then when you add the crossing over with RJ Harvey, I'd rather find somebody to complement the room more so than just have a duplicate skill set.
Well, I think that just quickly here on this with Price, I mean, the explosiveness is great. Like when he does actually get through the offensive line and when he sees it, he hits it, and he does create a lot of explosive plays. But there's a lot of inconsistency there. He's not a guy that's going to just continuously get you 3 or 4 yards every time you hand him the football. Like it's either a explosive run or he's stopped for negative yardage or 1 or 2 yards. And like you said, it's what you said, 8.7 touches per game on the offensive side of the football, and without including all of the kick return stuff, which you get 1, maybe 2 chances every single game. Like there's not enough true production here. And I don't like to just like scout on production only, scout on the traits and scout on what he actually proves on the field and the opportunities he gives you. It's just so inconsistent production, and a lot of it's negative more often than not.
And where's the worst place to fumble on the football field?
Between the 20s or on the negative yardage on your side of the football field. He does that a lot too.
For me, it's on the goal line.
That's two. That's a good one.
He fumbled 3 times on the goal line, within 2 yards of the goal line. And part of the issue is that he just doesn't have that mentality of protect the ball, and he leaves it open and he carries it very loosely, which is a correctable issue, but it can take time to correct it. And even though it's correctable, a lot of guys who have that, it's doesn't always get corrected. It's very difficult to correct for it, and it happens, just not that common. But I digress. William Canelano saying I'm calling me a wet blanket. That's my middle name. No, I'm just not a fan of Price. Not at 62. If we're talking before if Denver didn't trade away that 3rd round pick for Waddle, if they still had that, I'd be fine there. And if Denver, if between now and the draft, Denver did move Marvin Mims, I'd be a little bit more open to Price as well, because you have that clear opening for a returner. I don't think you spend 62 on that second returner that you pair with on kickoffs with Marvin Mims, but to replace him, all right. So there's still avenues where I could be okay with it, but it's just he's not my cup of tea, I should say. But we have plenty of other would you rathers here. And of course, we're going to start with another one involving Jonah Coleman. Jonah Coleman, the running back out of Washington. We just got done talking about him, the big power back, and going to keep him here at 108, just because I'm using the consensus board for this. All right. So the 2026 consensus board, I'm going off of a rough estimate of where they have them, moving them down to where they can fit within a Broncos pick. So Jonah Coleman at 108 or Chip Trayanum out of Toledo at 170. Who would you rather, Lance?
You're pitting two of like my favorite players at the running back position, and I hate you.
It's almost like I did that on purpose.
You literally did this on purpose, because I'm a huge Jonah Coleman fan, but we've talked about Chip Trayanum a lot. And at 108, I think that's good enough value for a player like Jonah Coleman. Trayanum, we talked about it. I think that he can go in the 5th round. 170 is right around the area that I think he should go. So like you nailed the value on both of these players. Give me Coleman though. And I know, as much as I've talked like widely and heavily about Trayanum over the last handful of weeks, I think Coleman offers you just a little bit more pop and a little bit more consistency, because Trayanum, there are times where, given the level of competition that he played against going at Toledo as compared to playing at Washington in the Big 12, with Coleman, the consistent 4 and 5 yard runs that he always is getting, and then every now and then he'll pop one for big yardage. Trayanum offers more consistent explosive. You know what? Never mind. I got to go Trayanum. He offers more consistent explosiveness than the consistent 3 and 4 yard touches. And I'd take Trayanum at 170 over Coleman at 108. Sorry, I had to backtrack myself there for a sec.
Yeah, I'm going to go the opposite of you. I will go Jonah Coleman over Chip Trayanum at 170. And I'm a big Chip Trayanum fan. I mean, I was sending videos of him at the Shrine Bowl practice and stuff like that in the group chat back in January. Big fan of his. 2 differences here for me. One, the production level that you said. 1 big year at Toledo, it's fine. But I mean, the multiple years at Washington, like with Coleman, and what he's done over it, and not as big. I mean, he didn't have as big of a year this year, but he missed some time with an injury, which does muddy it up. But Trayanum has some medical stuff in his history as well. And the other element for me, and this is the one that actually pushed me more so towards Coleman, age. Give me the guy who's going to be 23 by the time the season starts, compared to 25 at some point during the season. So that's where I would go Coleman here. I think that just the better talent at running back, and even though you can find guys later on, they typically offer a little bit more explosive burst than Trayanum does. So I have a hard time seeing him be able to be more than a running back 3 who's used strictly as a short yardage and pass down back. And and that's just tough. If you're risking, you have J.K. Dobbins, and if you're risking injury, you just want a little bit more. And that lack of explosiveness makes it harder for those late round running backs to hit.
Well, and like I was trying to touch on earlier when I first started on Coleman, the consistency. It is a consistent 3 to 4 yards every time he touches the football. You're literally moving the ball forward every time he gets it in his hands. So that everyone wants to talk about explosive plays. And yes, I just kind of went off on training him in the explosive plays at the running back position. It's great. That's why 40 times don't matter, though, for running backs. You want the 10-yard split. How bursty can you be? What's your 3-cone? How agile are you getting through the hole? With Coleman, he posted good numbers in his 10-yard split. Good number. Did he run the 3-cone at Washington's pro day? I believe he did. Regardless, you can see it. He's got some shiftiness to him. He has the ability to break some tackles. He runs with really good power, and he does have, I don't want to call it like super elite long speed, but he can rip a long 15 to 20, 40-yard play. I believe he had one. Was that against Washington State or Oregon? I can't remember. Had a really long run down the left sideline. It was very, very incredible. So with Jonah Coleman at 108, it's good value, and he does have the starting caliber running back upside that I don't think Trayanum has.
Yeah. Todd Austin, people will get back to that saying, would you rather Jarrett Stidham or Taylor Green? When it comes to quarterbacks, give me the guy with NFL experience 7 out of 10 times. And this is one of those. Is Taylor Green an actually a quarterback? I mean, his accuracy is just all over the place. I mean, he makes Wyoming Josh Allen look extremely accurate. It's really bad. I mean, and he doesn't understand touch. I have a lot of issues with Taylor Green. I understand the athletic upside and, being able to be creative with him at the quarterback position. But quarterback's job, first and foremost, is to make the throws when they're needed. Can he do that? I'm just not sure. So this is one. Give me the guy who's played in the NFL. And regardless of position, that's often going to be the case. Give me the guy who's played in the NFL, who's shown at least they can somewhat hang, even though Stidham was some term that I can't actually say on here against the New England Patriots. He's still been in the NFL for multiple years. He's still highly coveted. There are still teams calling Denver for him to be a backup quarterback. He's wanted. He's desired. Taylor Green is he actually a quarterback? There's been a lot of stuff that teams are asking him to move to wide receiver, to the point where he's had to come out and say that I'm not moving. I'm staying at quarterback. So Mike Thompson saying, how deep is the safety class? It is relatively deep. It's not as deep as a lot of people make it out to be, because there are a lot of guys with injury concerns. It's similar in a way to the tight end class. There's a lot of injury concerns with the tight ends that kind of muddy up the evaluation of the tight end position overall. Same at safety. Then William Catalano asking, what about Christian Miller, the defensive lineman from Georgia at 62? I'll quickly answer this, Lance, and then you can take it from here. I would have taken him at 30 and been very happy with it.
Yep. Yeah, that's a hellaciously talented nose tackle. You can play 0 to 3 technique, and if you wanted to move him outside a little bit, you could do that as well. Very, very, very good player. He's not making it outside the top 45. I would almost guarantee that. I want to go back to a conversation you were just talking about, because you were talking about tight ends and injury concerns. And we got Dale jumping off the top rope here with the $50 super chat. He's saying, what's up, Jensen MHH? Here's my top tight end out of Eli Stowers, Oscar Delp from the University of Georgia. He's being overlooked, in his opinion, simply due to roster makeup in Georgia. What do you guys know of him? If not much, check him out. I would love him in round 4. To me, a steal. Broncos for life. First and foremost, Dale, say hi to Gretchen. And we love and appreciate you for jumping in here on a wonderful Friday evening, and appreciate the generosity here. Thank you so much for that. Oscar Delp, man, first and foremost, an incredible athlete for the size that he is. I believe that there were people saying that his pro day workout was actually better than Brock Bowers, if not rivaling it, just a little bit better than that. But there are some definite medical concerns with him. He was flagged at the combine with a fracture in his foot and was not allowed to participate in the combine, even though he wanted to. Then went out at Georgia's pro day and showed massively, massively well. Eric, I like this player a lot. And the more you dive into him in terms of a blocker, I think that this is a true move, a move Y, if you will. a guy that you can line up on the backside of running plays. He can be on the front side if you need him to as well. Just an ass kicker up front, and he offers you the athletic upside that you like to see from a player that size to be a quality receiving option at the next level. In the 4th round, I don't know. That foot injury has me a little bit weary here because foot injuries don't typically get better, especially if you want to keep testing them over and over and over again. And it sounds like he might have refused to get that looked at and get it fixed. So, the 4th round, Eric, what do you think, dude?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for the super chat, Dale. Really appreciate it, and I will never be able to express my thanks in a way enough for for what you did to get me to all those years ago with my first football game of the Broncos and the Jets.
That was an awesome time.
Forever be appreciative of that. As for Oscar Delp, I love the player, and it often gets missed when I talk about him because I always bring up the injury issue with him where he suffered that fractured foot, was not allowed. He wanted to go out and do the combine anyways, and he was not allowed. He was advised against doing the workouts at the Georgia Pro Day to give his foot time to heal. He didn't. And there's been some reports that teams are not happy with the fact that he did that because you are keeping that foot hurt. You're not allowing it to heal. You need it to rest. I can't remember. There's a guy who covered the Green Bay Packers for years who always puts out really good draft information now. But he came out, he made
Corey
a report. No.
Was it No, okay.
But he came out and he reported that Delp was advised to get surgery to repair his foot during the season and refused. He was advised to get surgery on his foot in January and refused. And the thing was he probably could have come back in a couple weeks and did a workout for teams had he gotten the surgery because it's not super extensive. And maybe have been able to do a few things anyways, and he didn't. But on top of that, it's also been reported that at the combine, on top of the fractured foot, there's a lot of other medical issues that have been found with Oscar Delp that are leading to concerns, including some degenerative knee issues. So it's very concerning. I love the player, and if he checks out medically, round 4, I'm fine with that if he checks out medically. But the medicals are such an issue, and I've been burned so many times by tight ends who've had a lot of medical issues in the past. It's really hard for me to overlook it. But thank you again so much for the $50 super chat.
Thank you, Dale.
We appreciate you a whole lot. Chase Wallner saying, would Delp be a redshirt candidate? Probably not. He would probably be essentially forced to get the surgery and then probably come back some point in training camp. Because from what I understand, it's only about a month and a half, 2-month recovery time from that surgery before he's able to start working out and everything. And then so, training camp, you'd be able to get in there and then see what he can do from there. So it's definitely an option. But going back to this, another group of running backs here. Actually, no, I'm going to go over to tight ends since we're talking about tight ends. Talked about him, one of them already, Eli Stowers at 62 or Michael Trigg out of Baylor at 108.
Man, this one's difficult too because you want to talk about big power slot guys that are not your typical lineup with their hand in the dirt. Stowers showed that he can do that with varying levels of success. And when I say varying, I mean not very much. Trigg is more of a blocker that you move in motion. Picture a lot more like Evan Ingram, where you can line him up on the wing and then motion him across and insert him on wham blocks. I think I go Trigg here, honestly. The big player, 6'5", 245 pounds, great length. I think I actually undersold his height and weight from the combine. Incredible athlete, really good hands. I think that he struggles in some contested catch areas, but if you're talking about a player that can really exploit the middle of the field with athleticism, then to me, I would go with Trigg over Stowers, even though Stowers exploded the combine. I think that there's a little bit like a minutia more physicality with Trigg.
I wholeheartedly disagree.
Of course you do.
Trigg is Tarzan, looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane.
Yes.
Like, you talk about that mentality, that blocking mentality with Stowers. There are at least times he will give some effort. Trigg will go Olay to blockers. Bullfighting. He'll be the bullfighter. He'll be the Matador?
Yeah, the Matador, yep.
The Matador. And, wave the flag and let them run by. There's no effort whatsoever from him as a blocker. He gets bullied through his routes consistently. The athleticism is nowhere there on tape. He just has a huge catch radius because he's got such long arms and he knows how to use it. Sowers is an explosive athlete and you see it on tape. Give me that explosive athleticism, even at 62. Michael Trigg, man, he makes Julius Thomas look like a very physical player.
I don't know about all that, but okay.
I am all the way out on Michael Trigg. Like, Eli Sowers isn't my guy. I at least get it with him. I don't get it with Michael Trigg. I think his receiving ability is vastly overrated. Even for tight ends, his route running is extremely poor. It is, again, it just reliant on that size that he has in that length. And the fact he's dealing with an injury and he decided to be not so smart with it and still do the pro day and then test it terribly. He posted a historically bad vertical jump, like the worst vertical jump ever.
Was it like 26.5 inches or something like that?
Yeah, it was under 27 inches. I think it was 26.5, right? Which is the worst ever, which hamstring injury. Okay, then just don't do it. No hamstring injury, and now using that as an excuse. Well, that's not good either.
Mm-hmm.
So two of these down, we gone opposite ways on both. So keeping it going to another set of tight ends here, but we're going to switch it up more in line. Sam Roosh out of Stanford at 108, or a guy that anybody in chat that tunes in on the mornings or even has tuned into the show before, Nate Borkircher out of Texas A&M at 170. So Roush at 108, Borkircher at 170.
I think 108's a steal for Sam Roush because I think he's a top 100 level player in this class. He's a strong enough blocker. You can line him up in line. He shows really great athleticism as a route runner. And despite the lack of length, and Eric, I know you're going to tag him on this one, he's got short arms for the tight end position. He's a bigger body.
Short arms doesn't. I had to push back on Nick on this the other day. Short arms doesn't have any relation to tight ends and their blocking abilities at the NFL level. In fact, it's actually the opposite. Shorter arms for tight ends, actually, typically, the better the blocker they are.
Interesting. Okay, that's an interesting way of going about it. It may need to alter the way that I view that. But I mean, there's enough to like about Roush, and I like Nick Borkircher too. I just don't think that he got the opportunities to show as a receiver nearly enough in that Texas A&M offense that likes to push the ball down the field. And rather than like Borkircher, from what I watched, was working a lot over the middle of the field. And when he did have those opportunities, it was the ball was going to Casey Concepcion over the top, or that other wide receiver that they had, that flyer, the small guy. With Borkircher, I think there is upside as a receiver, but give me the proven production of a player like Sam Roush, who also never scout the helmet, guys. Like, this is, I'm going to say something that goes against this. Never scout the helmet, scout the player. But Stanford tight ends typically are guys that you have to be smart. You have to be smart to go to Stanford to begin with. It's an academic school. It's not an athletic school. You have to be incredibly intelligent. And Sam Roush is a very widely respected person in terms of being an intelligent football player, an intelligent individual. And it's so difficult to learn the tight end position at the NFL level because you have to understand not only the route schemes, you have to understand what your assignment is as a blocker in the running game and opportunities. And he's shown the ability to be a pass protector. Give me that guy at 108.
We're going to differ on this one again. And it comes down to Sam Roush. Yeah, he's shown that receiving ability, but he also has one of the worst drop percentages for a tight end to ever enter the NFL. Any round. He's going to get drafted. So any drafted tight end, he's got like the fourth worst drop percentage ever. And there's one guy this year who can actually has a worse one than him. Care to take a guess at who that is?
I don't know.
Michael Trigg.
Okay, fair enough.
I like Roush. I think he's a very capable blocker. I just think that his receiving ability is going to get a little bit overrated because the drops are such a concern. And then you go through the scouting process, and at the Senior Bowl, multiple drops. At the Combine, multiple drops. Like, it's just been a consistent issue. But he is very smart. He's one of the brightest players in this class. Praise for that. Praise for leadership. But in this case, even though Borkircher hasn't shown that receiving ability to quite on that same level, I'm taking the complete butt kicker at tight end as a blocker.
Mm-hmm.
Borkercher is one of the top 2 blocking tight ends in this class, and in my opinion, he's not number 2. I think he is the best. And the other Ohio State tight end, the one that doesn't get talked about, Will Kasmerick, is not far behind him. And then TCU has a guy in David Rogers that probably comes in at number 3.
Yeah,
he's a guy that can come in right away and be a blocker. Jackson Haas.
I was literally just about to say that. I said that a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about players that could go out at the combine and like prove that they were more than just a player that they were at Texas A&M. And again, I'm going to go back to this again. I don't think that Borkercher was actually utilized the way that he could have been utilized at Texas A&M. Like there's absolutely a lack of production from him because they just don't focus the offense through the tight end. It's zone read running game and shots over the middle of the field, and Borkercher running arrow routes and shallow cross on like Y shallow cross. They just don't target that. Like they want to push the ball down the field and be explosive on offense. So that's why I think that you can have a much higher ceiling out of a player like Borkercher. I just want that proven production from a player if you're going to go in that route. If you can get Borkercher at what's the not 170, what's the next pick? Is this in the 200s? Yeah, you're not getting him at 246. He's going in the 6th round, which is where that's why you would say at 170, tail end of the 5th round, that's where you put him in terms of his value. If the Broncos could pair a couple of their picks in the 7th round and move up in the 6th and go get Borkercher, I would rather do that. Absolutely. But at 170 is a little rich for me.
Do you know where Jackson Haas was drafted?
In the 6th round?
173, 5th round.
Really? I thought he was a 6th round pick. Okay. Well,
so
I mean,
just for like-minded players, 2 different years, just kind of seeing where teams kind of value that. 170 for Borkercher, that seems to be where it's at. We'll see if it actually happens, of course. 2 different players and 2 different years. Now going to this, we still have some on the offense, but I want to kick over to the defensive side of the ball. I saw a couple people bringing up, I think it was Todd brought up a couple linebackers. So we're going to go to linebackers. First one, Josiah Trotter, the Missouri legacy player at 62, or Keyshawn Elliott out of Arizona State at 170. Which way?
I'm going Josiah Trotter at 62 all day. First and foremost, I'm not sure that he actually gets to 62. I think that he's probably he's going to go shortly before that. But Keyshawn Elliott, both similarly like very good players moving downhill, but I think Josiah Trotter has better eyes than Keyshawn Elliott does. Elliott runs himself into blockers more often than not, and there's an issue with that. I also think that he lacks some thump for a player that wants to be a downhill player like that. He doesn't bring the wood that Josiah Trotter does. In terms of coverage ability, I think that Elliott's a better player there, and he also pursues a little bit better than Trotter does, which leads me to believe that he's going to be a core special teamer at the NFL level just right away. But with Trotter at 62, you're offering a different skill set. I mean, similar skill sets to Alex Singleton, but younger with more upside. And I think you can teach Trotter to be a better coverage defender than he is at this particular point. But I like better tools, better athlete, a better tackler, better measurables than Keyshawn Elliott. And even at, what did you say, 111? That's way too rich for me for Keyshawn Elliott.
170 for Elliott.
170, that's about the right range then. Yeah. I would still go Trotter here.
We agree, but for different reasons.
Okay.
I mean, for the most part, he's the best pure downhill, or the second best pure downhill run defender in this class. Sideline to sideline, he has that as well. Dropping into coverage, he offers absolutely no value. Like, it's got to be very limited, short, shallow zones. Even going out and covering the flats, it's going to be rough. He just is very late to react to it. He just doesn't have the natural feel or the natural instincts for it. It's very rough, but he is very good working downhill as a run defender. The Alex Singleton comparison is very apt. Both them better downhill with those issues in coverage. I like him quite a bit. I do think 62 is a little bit rich for me. I think that 3rd round, trying to move back a little bit and get him a little bit later, I would be very surprised if he goes before in the top 62 picks at this rate, just because part of that is this linebacker class. I mean, you already have CJ Allen, Jake Golday, Anthony Hill, Jacob Rodriguez, and there's another guy I'm missing that are all there that are widely viewed as being better than Trotter. But again, all it takes is one team. One team could absolutely love Trotter. So we'll see. Keyshawn Elliott is far more mistake prone in coverage. So even in those short, shallow zones, he is more likely to try to do a little bit too much than Trotter is. At least there, Trotter knows his responsibility and will execute it with good discipline. I also think that Keyshawn Elliott, as you said, he gets stuck on blocks. He wants to be that downhill thumper, but he's got to learn to disengage, and he just doesn't show that when you watch it. So I'm in agreement with you with Trotter on this one. Even at 170, I think it is a little bit rich for me for Elliott. And I think I have him at like 180, but he's one of those guys is like, I have him graded there, but I would like to trade down, get a little bit extra value, and then moving forward with that. And we're going to actually go to, I said 2 linebackers, but I want to go to nose tackle because Michael Ronquillo coming in. Any nose tackles in this draft? There are as many draftable or nose tackles with a draftable grade for me as there are other interior defensive linemen. So nose tackles are guys that are 0 to 3 techniques, and then others are 3 to 5, 7 techniques. So there's as many there. This is a ridiculous nose tackle class. And so 2 of those are in our would you rather for it. Dominique Big Citrus Orange out of Iowa State at 62. He's a guy that's probably more in that 70 range, but Denver picks at 62. And with these, I don't do trade backs. It's not a trade back and get this guy later because the trade just muddies up the value of it all. Or Dante Corleone, the Godfather, out of Cincinnati at 111.
Talk about the battle of the best nicknames in this draft class. Quite honestly, Big Citrus is an elite name, but when you're Dante Corleone, the Godfather, like, man, it's fun. Both similar players in terms of what they bring. 2 gapping, run stuffing nose tackles. I think that Big Citrus, Dominic Orange offers a little bit more as a pass rusher. So to me, I would lean into that versatility. But where you have Corleone at 111? Honestly, I think that I go Corleone here for the value because there is some pass rush upside to a player like that. He fits exactly what you're looking for as I don't want to say Malcolm Roach replacement, DJ Jones replacement, but the same kind of player there. Citrus offers more upside, but I think it's a little rich for me with him. I think he's limited athletically.
Okay. Mike Ronquillo is saying the Broncos only have 1 nose tackle. They actually have 2. DJ Jones and Malcolm Roach are both nose tackles in this defensive front. We're back to disagreeing. I'm going to go Dominic Orange. I think he offers a lot more as a pass rusher with that initial quickness.
Yeah.
For being as big as he is, he can fire off that snap and shoot gaps at times when needed as a pass rusher. He's also not just a short, stout guy like Corleone is. Corleone is only like 6'1", and 328 pounds, 330 pounds. Dominic Orange, I think there's just a little bit more athleticism there, a little bit more size. His wingspan is absolutely ridiculous. I think he's got like the 3rd widest wingspan out of the nose tackles in this class, to where he can basically 2 gap without having to move. He has such great grip strength that when he gets his hands on a back, they're struggling to break free. He knows how to, even though he's a little bit taller, he does show that he understands that leverage to play low, and he knows how to play into the chest and get blockers on their heels and play through it, and just knows that body control. I would say 62. Again, it's a little bit rich for me, but as I said, I don't do trades, and even though I would rather trade it back a little bit and get him, well, I don't do that. So with these would you rathers, don't get me wrong, I really like Dante Corleone. And if Denver was, if this was 62 versus like 130, I would probably go Corleone at 130. I just think that the reach, it's Corleone at 111 is just a little bit more rich for me for what he is than Orange being at 62 being not quite as rich, even though it is rich for me.
Even I don't disagree very much on this one though, because you could absolutely talk me into Dominic Orange at 62. Like again,
did I do it?
Sure. I mean, when I say limited athletically, I think that Corleone, when I'm talking athletically, I'm talking lateral agility, and I think, with Dominic Orange, lateral agility is the big thing. He is more of a straight line defender, and he does have a bunch of power. And like you said, great grip strength. He doesn't get moved off the ball. He's got a rock solid anchor. Corleone also offers that with a little bit more quickness in his lower half to move side to side to get into gaps a little bit better. least it's what I saw at Cincinnati. So that's where I'm saying like limited athletically.
Yeah.
I think the lateral agility with Corleone is a little bit better. You don't have that push the pocket strength that Dominic Orange brings though, or the first step quickness. Similar enough style of players where if you want to bet on the upside of a Dominic Orange, absolutely. If you want to take him at 62, sure. Trade down to 75, absolutely. That's exactly what I want to do here. Corleone at 111, I think is fine.
All right, now quickly, let's get through a couple of these.
Okay.
Emmett Johnson out of Nebraska, the running back at 111, or Le'Veon Moss out of Texas A&M at 257.
Oh man, at 257 for Le'Veon Moss?
Yeah, he's like 300 in the 300s on the consensus board now.
That's ridiculous, dude. That's ridiculous. Le'Veon Moss is a third-round player for me, and I know there's injury concerns here. If you can get Le'Veon Moss at 257, you run that card with no question. I mean, explosive playmaker, a ridiculously dynamic pass catcher out of the backfield. He brings everything. He's not the greatest blocker, but for what you want out of a running back in the Sean Payton offense, that's the guy here. I love Emmett Johnson. I think he's very good. Le'Veon Moss at 257 is way too much of a steal for you, even with a knee injury.
Yeah, I'm not a big Emmett Johnson fan. So for me, even if this was 111 versus 170, I would still go Moss.
I would go Moss at 111 too. Like you're like I said, he's a third round player on my board.
I'm not that high on him. If it was 111 for both of them, I'd probably go Johnson there. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Moss and at 257, even with the injury history. 7th round picks, you're hitting on maybe 3% of them. Like, just take that shot on that. So that's at defensive line. Okay, we're gonna switch over here. I know we're kind of bouncing around on it, but we have a couple other big conversations here with these that I want to get through too. But I want to get through some of the other ones quicker. Zane Durant out of Penn State at 111, or Tyler Onyedem out of Texas A&M at 170.
Durant at 111. I'm a huge fan of Zane Durant. The first step explosiveness, the pass rush ability he brings you, I watched on Onyedem right before we came on. He was one of the 5 or 6 guys that I got a chance to watch. And while Onyedem does play with great length and leverage when he does get his arms extended, he needs to use his hands a lot more. And I think Durant does a better job of that. He ties some pass rush moves together. I think that Onyedem right now, as it currently stands, is a better run defender than Durant is. But if you can get Durant to play with a little bit more anchor and build some play strength in his lower half, he could be just as good, if not better, of a run defender than Onyedem is right now and possibly can be. I think the technical side of things with Zane Durant is a lot better as it stands right now. And Onyedem, to me, in the top 170 is you're reaching a little bit there. Durant, you have some value at 111.
Yep, back to disagreeing. Zane Durant, I think Tyler Onyedem is one of the better technicians in this class, and Zane Durant,
really,
he just relies on his athleticism to win. So I'm not a big fan of that. And when I'm talking about this for Denver, I do agree that I think that Onyedem is a little bit better of a run defender, and Zane Durant does offer up a little bit more as a pass rusher. But guess what? With Denver, with Savion Jones, that's what I'm looking for. I want that run defender to be part of that rotation and turn to Savion Jones. And hopefully you can develop Savion Jones as a run defender and Onyedem as that pass rusher. Also at the combine, Onyedem probably had the best drill workout out of all the defensive linemen. It was so clean and efficient. I do agree he does need to use his hands a little bit more. He also has a bad habit of not playing with his body in sync. Either his legs will be a little bit ahead of his hands or his hands will be a little bit ahead of the feet. Got to balance that out. But again, Zane Durant to me right now, he's just pure athlete. If Denver was picking 130 to 140, I'm fine with Zane Durant there. 111 is just way too rich. And I think Tyler Onyedem at 170, he's sitting at like 165 to 180 on my board. I just think it's a good fit there.
I'd like to sit down and watch Onyedem with you, and because the 2.5 games that I was able to watch of him, it was underwhelming to me. Like I can see what you can build with there for sure. And at 170, that's a little rich there for my blood, but I mean, I want to see what you're talking about as far as technique wise, because he doesn't use a lot. And like you said, he's out of sync so much. When he does drop his hips and drive, the power profile is absolutely there. And I think that you can have a guy that can develop into a pocket pushing 4-eye for sure. But he's not a guy. I think Durant can play a 3-tech with that first step explosiveness and the athleticism that he plays with. I don't think you can do that with Onyeda.
Well, good thing Denver doesn't use 3-techs all that often, right?
That's fair enough. Fair enough.
They're 4-eye-5s. Now getting to a big conversation here at linebacker. It was one I was kind of getting at earlier. Jake Golday out of Cincinnati at 62, or Caleb Alarms or out of TCU at 111.
Jake Golday at 62 all day. That's another player I think is going to go higher than that. Caleb Elam's or he showed really well at the Senior Bowl, but it's inconsistent at TCU. Like there's a lot of inconsistencies there. Inconsistencies with understanding his assignment against the run specifically. Like he's always consistently put himself out of position in coverage. There's a lot of lack there. And with Golday, I think that with the size and athletic profile that you use there, you have to be creative with Jake Golday because like creative in your mind, like understanding what Cincinnati does defensively, because he didn't really play like a true middle linebacker role. He was kind of like an overhang safety or overhang linebacker. He played in a little bit in the nickel there as well. So he shows some coverage flashes.
He played a lot in the nickel.
He did. Like there's a lot there. So you see the coverage, you see the length. He's 6'4", 245 pounds or something like that. Like 33 and a half, 34-inch arm. Like he's got every tool and every athletic trait that you want to have from a developmental linebacker. And he brings you a skill set that you don't have on this roster right now, even with Justin Strnad coming back. You get a player like that, who I think that can step in the rotation and be even a bigger rotation player for that linebacker position. That to me is way more valuable than Caleb Elam's or at whatever pick. It doesn't matter.
Do you know who Jake Golday's four of his top 5 closest athletic measurements comparisons are? It's hilarious to me. Fred Warner.
No, I don't. Yeah.
Carson Schlesinger.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Campbell.
Yep.
Drew Sanders.
That's hilarious. Oh my goodness. Well, so the one thing I will say that gives me the edge here on Golday, even over Drew Sanders, is at least Golday played the same role every year. Like Sanders coming out of Alabama was an edge defender, and then he transitioned to linebacker at Arkansas. He was learning 2 different positions at the same time. Like
it's also impossible. Not the sharpest tool in the shed.
But there's that too, and I've heard a lot of high regard about Golday being a very intelligent football player. So, like, I mean, to me, it's Golday.
Yeah, it's Golday for me as well. I like Caleb Alarms but this is another one where if we're talking like 130, 140, somewhere in that range, I'd actually probably go Caleb Alarms My concern with Jake Golday is you have to give him the Jack Campbell treatment. He is very tall and he plays tall, and it really affects his change of direction. And as a rookie, that was a serious issue for Campbell. It took him a lot to get that corrected and play low. And so it's going to take time. It's going to take work for that to happen. Fortunately, Denver has Alex Singleton and Justin Strnad in tow to be the starters, so they can work through that with Golday without him having to see the field a whole lot. Also, the coverage ability. I think the reps that he got out in the slot, covering tiny slot receivers up the seam, is a little bit misleading for. I don't think he's some great cover linebacker. He's decent. He understands what he needs to do. But there are times when, especially when he's working in zone, that he gets lost and he loses his guy. But again, there's a lot there that you can work with. The athleticism is there. The size is there. The physicality, like he's got all those traits to be a Jack Campbell level linebacker. And Jack Campbell is probably a top 5-10 linebacker at the very least in the NFL right now. It's just a matter of getting him developed, and can Denver actually get him developed in that?
Yeah, and Golday shows a hell of a lot on the blitz too. When they send him off the blitz coming off the edge there, like he's very, very good there, and the length shows there big time. Like he's a hell of a tackler too.
Yeah. Real quick, David, hope you get to feeling well here soon.
Ooh, no.
There's a lot going on. I see you post in the chat a lot about the health stuff, and our thoughts are with you. Todd asking if they erroneously let Greenlaw walk. No. There's been some stuff that's come out about Greenlaw that basically showed that him being cut was inevitable.
Not a fit in the locker room is a big thing.
I'm not. I don't know how much of it is actually public, how much of it was said in private conversations. So that I've shared with you. So I don't want to get into it too much, but there were a lot of issues behind the scenes with Greenlaw almost from the moment he arrived in Denver. So we'll just leave it up there. Um, actually, let's go back to tight ends and then we'll jump back to linebackers just because I like jumping around a lot. Justin Jolie, North Carolina State at 108, or Tanner Koziel out of Houston at 170.
Another two players that I like a lot. Jolie,
I gotta get it ingrained into you to start liking good football players.
Tanner Koziel's awesome, man. Like he's really good. For again, you want to talk about a couple of move guys. I think Jolie offers up a lot more as a blocker, and the physicality with him is really, really good. I think you said, what is it, 108? Yeah, 108 versus Tanner Koziel. You know what? Give me Jolie here. I think you can line him up in line a little bit more. I like Koziel a lot, and for a guy that has a 94 reception season, if I remember correctly, that was it Kent State or Western Kentucky, something like that was where he transferred from to Houston. He had a 94 reception season, but he was playing primarily as a wide receiver. He wasn't even listed as a tight end in that days. Coming to Houston, he had a great year. He's a tremendous red zone threat. Big body, 6'7", 257 pounds, ridiculously long arms, great hands. Like he plucks the ball there smoothly. Jolie, not quite as big, but just as good of an athlete, if not a better athlete. Smooth hands as well. Can be a solid blocker if you wanted to line him up in line, which didn't happen very often, but they did use him like that. I would go Jolie at 108 over Koziel at 170 because I think Koziel could be had probably 30 picks later than 170.
Back to disagreeing.
Good Lord.
We got to sit down and we got to watch tight ends because Jolie offers nothing as a blocker, man. He's probably, I would take Eli Stowers over him, but not Michael Trigg. I don't think he offers you any inline.
I must be misremembering something then. I must be misremembering something here.
Purely a slot guy. He plays at like 235 pounds. He is a big receiver when we talk about it. Koziel, 6'7", 250 pounds. At least he's had some flashes as a blocker. He's been used in line quite a bit. His 1 year at Houston, not as much as he was there at Ball State, but he did well in it. And the thing is, he has that size and he shows that mentality of wanting to improve on. One of his biggest issues as a blocker is he's just naturally tall and he has to play with a little bit better bend more consistently. So I like Koziel. I do think it is a little bit early. I do agree with you there, but I would still take him. I would take him 50 picks higher than Justin Jolie. Jolie is one of those guys. He's like Michael Trigg. I am all the way out on Justin Jolie. And part of that is going into the Senior Bowl. He's a first round guy. He's a guy that, he's really going to showcase. He's going to be a star there. He was awful. And that left a bad taste in my mouth. He was getting bullied. He was getting beat up in blocking drills. Like, it was rough. And then Koziel, he's sitting there, he's just being reliable. Showed reliable hands, was reliable as a blocker. Not the best technique, but was reliable. And it carried over into the game for him as well. So that sits with me. But I still like the tape a little bit more of Koziel, as well as seeing a little bit more there to be an inline guy than Justin Jolie if you can develop him as a blocker, which again, you got to show that desire, you got to show that effort. Koziel shows it, Jolie doesn't.
Well, Koziel after the catch is really, really, he's hard to bring down when he does get his pad level down. Like you hit the nail on the head here. He does get his knees taken out from underneath him, which leads me to believe there could be some injury concerns there as well. He did suffer a concussion this last year as well. So that, I mean, concussions are a thing in football. You're just going to kind of have to deal with that. But Koziel, when I first started watching this tape, I'm like, man, this guy he's so fun. He's so fun as a receiver. I didn't see a lot of blocking. Honestly, I need to go back and watch Jolie because I must be misremembering something. I thought he lined up a little bit more in line than that. So I apologize for if I'm misspeaking on that. Regardless, like Koziel at 170, a little rich for me, but I do love that player a lot, and I think he'd be a great fit in Sean Payton's offense. I really do.
Yeah, another thing is one of the best elements there's two really good elements for predicting NFL success: the 3-cone for time for tight ends and yards after catch. Tanner Koziel, out of all the tight ends in this that are draft eligible this year, he had the 5th highest in yards after the catch. Justin Jolie, 28th, and he is far below that threshold that you're kind of looking for. So it's definitely a concern there. But continuing on, we got 2 more here. We got to try to get these in quick because we don't have a lot of list. Deontay Lawson, the linebacker out of Alabama, or Jimmy Rolder, the linebacker out of Michigan. 108 for Lawson, 170 for Rolder.
These two are I'm vaguely familiar with both of them. Lawson, if I'm remembering correctly, the tape that I saw, downhill player, has some length. No, this is the coverage kid, right? The lengthy coverage kid.
Yes.
Yeah. So lengthy coverage kid. He's not the downhill linebacker. They had another linebacker at Alabama that I liked a lot more than him. But Lawson has like the athletic versatility to be able to play in coverage. 108's a little rich for me here, so I'm probably going to go with Jimmy Rolder, who similar player, a lengthy cover. I think he's a little bit shorter than Deontay Lawson is in terms of like arm length. But I think Rolder can be an elite special teamer. The values are a little weird here for me, though, and I need to go back and watch more of these players. Give me Lawson, though. Over Rolder at 170, because I think that Lawson or that Rolder can probably be had in the 7th round.
So this is one where, for the most part, they were very similar players. This is one where they're pretty different, and they're pretty different for two different reasons. One, Lawson is a little bit better in coverage. Rolder is a little bit more downhill. He has shown well in coverage when he's been asked to do it. The other one is you have a bunch of experience with Lawson, very little with Rolder. I mean, Rolder has barely played more snaps in his college football career than Lawson has played just this last season alone. It's 909 snaps for Rolder in his career, and Lawson played just over 700 last year. 207 snap difference between the two. I prefer Rolder here as well. I think he's a guy that if he played more than he did, we're probably talking about him round 2, round 3, probably up there with Jake Golday and Josiah Trotter and Anthony Hill, kind of that tier of linebackers, because the flashes are there. He just didn't play enough. So it's such a small sample size. And linebackers are one of those positions where you kind of want to see a little bit more on tape than you do to help their transition to the NFL, because it can be a very difficult transition to the NFL for them. But I still like Rolder at this point. Now, last one we have here, it's the most exciting one. I know a lot of people in the chat are just waiting for it, on the edge of their seats for this one. All right, ready for this? We're going returners. Caden Weegan out of Iowa or Michael Wortham out of Montana. 170 for Weegan, 257 for Wortham. We all know how much you guys in the chat love your returner talk.
I don't see the Broncos drafting either one of these players, but if we have to have the conversation, Weegan at 170 is very interesting here because he does show some slot versatility and is pictured like a Wes Welker. Like, we're going to go the white wide receiver, the white slot receiver that's shifty, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman. You're going to get that talk all the time. I like that. Give me Michael Wortham at 257 here, though. The explosiveness as a punt returner. He's got some gadget stuff to him. He also has some quarterback experience to him in his time. I believe it's at like Sierra Community College or something like that. He's at least thrown the football. You can get creative with a player like that. It's completely redundant to get either one of these guys with Marvin Mims on the roster. But if you're looking to move on from Marvin Mims potentially after signing Jalen Waddle, Mims is in the last year of his deal. You need to bring in a guy that could be a developmental returner specialist for you. I really like Michael Wortham, and the fact that he went to Montana, go Grizz, that's always going to sit well with me. Give me the Grizz at 257, please.
Give me anyone but an Iowa player.
Yes.
That plain and simple. On a serious note, though, I would take Wortham here just because I think there's a little bit more there on offense to get him to fit.
Yep.
And I think if you're looking for somebody to be a returner too and just potentially replace Marvin Mims, 257 is not a bad spot to look at doing it. 170 is a little bit rough, especially for a guy who I think offers very selective usage as a gadget player on offense with Weejan. That said, if you were looking specifically for a return specialist and you needed one now,
Yeah,
Weejan
Weejan's the
all
guy.
day.
Yeah,
Weejan
Weejan's the guy.
is so good as a returner. He just sees things so well. He's got such a nuance with his returning, with setting up angles and having extra burst there to fully exploit those angles. So yeah, and we're gonna have to wrap it up there. We're right at the hour mark, but before we do, I do got to block Todd for saying Iowa players all day, every day.
Can I offer one quick comparison to Caden Weejan that I don't think that gets thrown out enough? Ryan Switzer. You remember the Ryan Switzer from North Carolina? It was about a decade ago, I believe. Very similar players, including as a punt return. Like Ryan Switzer, if I remember, if that's the right name, I think that's what it is. Do you remember who I'm talking about?
I do. I don't remember him being that much of a special teams player.
He was like one of the most explosive punt returners, if I remember correctly. Like that's
I was a big Ryan Switzer fan, but I don't remember the returning ability. Yeah, he only had 16 total returns in 1 year. All of them on punt returns, average 6.7 returns and muffed one.
then I'm thinking of the wrong guy. There was a punt returner from North Carolina. It was a handful of years ago, and I thought it might have been him. I can't remember. I can't remember his name. Ryan Switzer was the one that came to mind.
Yeah. I was a big Ryan Switzer fan, and the special team stuff just wasn't remembering hitting with me for it. So but that's that. Weejan is, again, he's a talented returner. He's probably going to quickly become a good one in the NFL for that. But Denver doesn't really need a punt returner. If they do take that, then maybe it's a sign that Marvin Mims is on his way out. Nick and I were talking about this morning. It seems like right now Troy Franklin is probably the odd man out, but if they draft another returner, it might push the needle over to Marvin Mims, especially with him being in the final year of his contract. But that is going to have to do it for us. Before we get out of here, of course, we do have some things to say here. First off, I want to say thank you to Papa Bear and Dale Cook for coming in with some super chats. We appreciate you both. Thank you guys for your support. Can't tell you how much it means to us. As well as you can see at the bottom of the ticker, you subscribe, like, and share. Those are ways to help us with the algorithm, especially on YouTube and Facebook, that are ever changing and ever being frustrating on our part, as well as being able to go over to youtube.com/@MileOutHuddle and become a member. We thank you guys for your support that way. You guys can get access to all sorts of exclusive content that we have going up on there. And thank you for everybody who comes in with super chats, stars on Facebook. If we ever miss your stars on Facebook, please call us out in the chat. We don't actually have access to be able to see it on our end, and with no producer to be able to pull it up for us, it just makes it even harder for it. We appreciate you guys as well. If you guys are able to do so, take a matter of time, go over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star review for a chance to win some gear, not swag. I hate saying swag every single month. You guys can also join in the server in the description down below. You can join the MHH Discord server, where we have some conversations going on off and on. Lance, you need to be more active on it. You guys can also go to Instagram @MileOutHuddle with an underscore between Mile and High and Huddle, where you guys can get access to stuff through there as well. I know we're pushing a lot on it. I'm not on Instagram nearly enough. You guys can also go to mhhmerch.com to get your gear on, not swag. Again, I hate saying swag. You guys can get hats like the one that Lance is wearing and the one I have sitting right here, as well as hats for every single show. I still got to get around to getting me a Broncos for breakfast hat. Although after Monday, I went hatless with the shirt, or hatless on Monday, and got called a silver fox. Made me feel good. So maybe I'll continue going hatless, unless I have really bad bedhead like I did this morning. Anyways, you guys can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/MileOutHuddle, facebook.com/MileOutHuddle, where you guys can get access to all of our written content, as well as be part of the wonderful Facebook community that we've built up for the last 10, 15 years, or 10, 12 years. You guys can follow us on Twitter @MileOutHuddle, @DVDD_pod, and @the MHH pod, as well as Lance and myself @Lance S_MHH, and myself @Erick Trickel. We are one of the many Mile High Huddle broadcasts that come to you every single night of the week and twice in the morning. We want to thank you guys for spending some of your time with us on this fine Friday night. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. And before we get out of here, Lance, any last words?
No, not necessarily. Just again, excited to get really like full throttle into the NFL draft season, like we usually do here on Dove Valley Deep Divers. It's one of the big reasons that we got this show started, was to go deep and provide as in depth analysis as we possibly can, not only on the Broncos, but with Erick being the senior Mile High Huddle NFL draft analyst. It's always fun to pick your brain and disagree with you, which we do frequently. And it's fun though. I mean, it's always great to be able to sit here on a Friday night with everybody here. You all stay safe and take care. Have a great rest of your weekend. And as always, go Broncos.
Mike Ronquillo coming and saying, "Don't say that to Nick because he's a big Iowa fan." I say that to Nick daily.
Literally, it's a daily thing in the group chat. It's literally Iowa sucks drops all the time in the group chat, guys. It's awesome.
Don't tell him this. It is 100% to just troll Nick. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in on this fine Friday night. I hope you guys stay safe. Don't drink and drive. Choose kindness, compassion, and of course, if you guys are struggling mentally, please feel free to reach out to Lance or myself, or basically anybody at the Mile High Huddle, on the Mile High Huddle staff. Mental health is a serious issue that is going on not just in this country but in this world right now. I have my issues with it throughout my life. There are people who love you. There are people who care. There are people who are willing to listen. So whatever it is, whether you want to talk about your struggles going on or just football, my Twitter DMs, my email, Facebook, it's all open. Thank you guys again for joining us. Again, stay safe. Don't drink and drive. Choose kindness, compassion, and of course, go Broncos.